Winter, slow to let go of Revachol. Flecks some more. The snow falls lazily, making the beach sand paler still. It has been a colder year. Looking up at the sky, melted. The sky is full of great battleships. White clouds collide with one another. You're warm in your hat and your coat. Like a well-equipped explorer, you comfortably survey the white lands. More winding coastlines lined with abandoned buildings. Crumbling piers, salt water lapping at their dark piles. The waters turn black. Coal City in the shadow of San Martin, a boom town. Back when coal extracted from countless shafts near the city was needed to power Revachol. No more. The coal was supplanted by petroleum from the ocean floor and hydropower from the Esperance. Everything crumbled. These days, only the weakest remain in Coal City. Their hopes of getting rich linger in the defunct shafts under their feet. Below the old mines, L'Océan Municipal, Revachol's underground cemetery. Le Petit Rat braved the underground passageways, trying to get to Le Royaume, where the Philippian kings were interred, with their doctors and their admirals. Mausoleums, burial chambers, leaf golds. Yes, to peel the gold off with his fingernails. Children under 14, they go underground looking for artifacts to sell to foreign museums, and for fabled relics. Their parents left after rubies, melchiorite, lapis lazuli, plundered from Safle and Seol during the time of the suzerain. In the burial 2 kilometers underground, in a winding shaft along whose walls mirrors have been. The mausoleum contains untold quantities of gold, and that special, purest of the pure. Few Petit Rat return from the shafts. Even fewer find what they're looking for. All around her, white snow on the extinguished coke furnaces, and on the weather-worn shacks, where fathers beat their sons after drinking. The snow melts on your fingers, turning to water. Near, snow falls into dark water. That's all. Layer upon layer of sand, poisoned with industrial runoff. The storm drainage, hidden bunkers. Rats scut. Someone stuffed a big old polar anorak into a concrete pipe under the boardwalk. It would keep you warm. You would probably never happen across it. An abandoned church that's being turned into a dance club. A serpentine strip of land weaving its way into the Martinez Inlet. Unfortunates on the run from the law, from themselves. Sometimes hide out on nearby islets. Little dots in the ocean that are occasionally submerged when the tide is high and the weather foul. The remains of a camp on a jagged piece of rock, a tent, old dishes and cutlery, long since abandoned. A hermit crab. Further out, the lights burn bright on Resurrection, way beyond Martinez. A popular spa destination for ample. Then there's Ozon, but the snow falls too thick. You cannot see that far. The Bay of Revachol, vastness, great depth, over 1,200 meters at its deepest. Water, air brinier, and at the farthest reaches of the Bay of Revachol, the shadow of the coalition warship Archer, on perpetual patrol duty, ready to unleash artillery fire. The raised motorway, 881, separating Martinez from Jamrock. Vehicles whoosh past one another day and night. while those who reside in the labyrinthine alleyways beneath the motorway attempt was once a park, a place for reflection and recuperation for the patients of the old military hospital. In the 20s, it was used as a quarantine center during a measles outbreak that killed many children. Most everyone has avoided the hospital and surrounding park. The pox is completely wild now. Evergreen thickets covered in snow and industrial dust. Feral dogs and even heavy drug users do slip through and hole up in the old military hospital, hoping to find something to get high on among the hastily abandoned supplies. Or a line of motor garages with armored carapaces hunched in the cold. A mechanic is hard at work, patching up bullet holes in the side of a Capri 40. These are the garages of Precinct 41. Snow settles on the roof of the repurposed silk mill. So around you, the snow continues to fall. To the west, the ocean swells. The stairs descend to central Jamrock. A man named Cooklove has a snow-covered stall there, in the market across the bridge. He sells kebab infested with fly larvae. Snow falls on the utility district, the library, the florist, the Sarah Mauritian restaurant that offers homemade wine. All of this built around a lake that formed in a meteorite strike. At the center of this lake, there is a little ship. There are lights at the bottom. A chill comes over you, crawling down your back. The sand under your feet is wet. Somewhere in the canal you crossed to get here and beyond it. Martinez proper, the district the police forgot to police. There is laughter. Someone is scraping snow off their windshield. At the roundabout, in the midst of which a statue of Philip III serves as a destination. Like all monuments, it's also a warning. 6-story ruins on the south side of the roundabout cast a long shadow over a fenced-off yard. There's a truck belonging to a logistics company parked next to the gate. You've heard about it. Bright light from a clean white light coming from the windows of a clean cube-shaped office building hidden amid...
We should keep moving. Who knows when the snow will let up.
It's getting cold.
Good night, officer.
A brisk coastal wind still howls against the window of the shack. Occasionally, the room feels muffled, like you pulled your hat over your ears. Out.
What is this place to you?
Waves crash onto the beach, drowning the reeds. Far to the south, this could have been you. This could still be you. A down-on-his-luck nobody, trying to survive. Who are you talking to? There is no one here, not even cold. Outside, the howl of the wind has picked up. The waves crash against the stilts again.
Revachol.
Good. You're up. Listen, there's something. It's a suspicion every day. The bed is comfortable. The place feels almost like home now, quiet and dignified around you.
It's easier this time. Drifting off, your head has found a comfortable indent in the pillow.
This respite, you've earned it, brother. Bask in the darkness. Let it swallow you up and swivel you around while you forget. No, this is the one before that. We'll just keep cycling it for you if you don't mind.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
You're welcome, Harry boy.
After centuries of darkness, the alarm rings. But what's this? You act...
Go.
The sea's gonna calm down. You're back. Good. What can I help you with? Well, technically good. Oh? Of course, I fear I've told... Is there anything else I... Of course. Of course.
Oh, sorry, officer. What do you want? René wasn't really what you'd call a botanist, officer. And believe me, he didn't like insulin. That's their old name, dating back to the time of kings and crests. And there were many reasons, but mostly it was the communals. They called them the belts of rev. I guess in the end, the Insulindian lilies were just another piece of the whole Insulinde. The
Six crumbling petals. Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and...
This is Precinct 57. How may I... Yes, I got the mercenary's name and a few biographies.
The lieutenant leans in to listen.
That suit of armor was issued to an Oranese citizen named Elis Cortenaer. That's E-L-L-I-S. He was found as a newborn in a leaf compactor near an abandoned farm. He spent 4 months in the neonatal unit.
According to Clausia, Lele said his real name wasn't really his. Perhaps that's because he was...
This is what the ICP knows about him. He was raised by foster parents, entered the East Brand Military Academy, then the armor followed him to Semenine, or at least I assume it did. And that's it. There are no records of his employment in Crenel. or any of its other... It's a garden tool used to press leaves into these cubes. It's a detail the hospital had.
It is. Thank you, Alice.
None, officer. Sorry.
Even that is a small miracle. These organizations usually double-check their inventory.
No problem, Lieutenant.
A compliment from Lieutenant Kitsuragi. Not bad.
A name. This is very good. Elise Cortenard.
Sometimes police work is about human dignity.
I'm glad the inquiry was helpful to your investigation. 57.
In the cabin, you see a set of steering levers.
Make way for the master.
Fuck does Kuno...
The dented yellow mailbox greets you with its graffito and bullet.
Looking for something?
Right, two.
Hola, Wandering Man.
The file cabinet stands the drawers. A common office radio, like any of those.
There's usually a little switch somewhere. Ah, yes. It's the one that says...
The lock disengages with a nice... There's nothing obviously remarkable about it. It's about this. If this transceiver were a person, it would be an accountant at a large logistics firm. Perfectly competent, but unexceptional.
I don't think the people who typically buy these machines...
The transceiver appears slightly hurt.
You've surprised me more than once during the course of our investigation. But I have to say, it still seems like a remote scenario. It doesn't, frankly. Don't get me wrong. This appears to be a fine transceiver for a general audience, but it's not something a serious radiohead would use. I suppose it will.
There's nothing... If this transceiver were a...
I suppose...
The transceiver appears with its The door seems to...
Oh, hey, mister. I'm not...
Mr. Dubois, the Golden Boy returns once more. Wonderful. My friend, the mailman, confirms the letter is on its way. You've done a great thing today. You're in my inner circle. You too, Mr. Kitsuragi. We can talk about anything.
Hear that? You did it the honest way. You got the real signatures, and now he's happy. Well done. We would have preferred trickery, but the choice was yours, sire. As always.
Harry, by now you should know I would never do anything tricky like that. However, if the construction, well, let's just say there'll be freshly renovated buildings near the roundabout where those poor people can finally enjoy a significant uptick in quality of life.
He proudly spreads his hands to demonstrate the size of the palace.
So the village is doomed.
You were there, you saw the place, a wasteland, there's nothing left. But mark my words, officers, we are going to reset it. Reset! I have big plans for Martinez, and they do not include humans living in those pig sheds on the coast. That land will be used. Harry, imagine a youth centre supermarket church complex, employing hundreds, no, thousands of people. The coast will be lit up with enterprise. Harry, enough is enough. We're taking this district back. The war was 50 years ago, for God's sake. It's time to move on. Yes, I do. I got the centre, I got room for a retail complex, and in 4 years, I'll get the church too. The wheels are already turning, Harry. The wheels of progress. This post-war limbo...
There is true indignation in his voice when he speaks about this. The pain is true. He's seen kids do worse than that.
I'm not a symbolist, Harry. I'm a realist. My statue will be Martinez rebuilt. 5-story building complexes, workers on welfare, and landowners.
You would look nice as a statue.
Damn right I am, Harry. I'm gonna make the working man as rich as she is one day. That's my job. Just like yours is to keep the peace.
A true flash of anger in him, as he thinks of her.
Order it. You know my men didn't kill him. They told you. It was a happy accident. You know how it is. No one takes the initiative. If I wanted him dead, I would have had to do it myself. I'm glad you asked. I've got type 2 diabetes because sugar and fat was all my mother had to give me, and my good job too, as it made me ugly. And ugly people, Harry, are much...
That is true.
Why, a war, of course.
And what do you have to gain from...
Victory, Mr. Kitsuragi. I have victory to gain. We are going to start a war with the Wild Pines group and win before they even realize there is a war. I have. It's a great story, Harry. Did you also know how the bee colony kills the giant hornet?
He crosses his hands contently, thinking of the interior.
Harry, we outnumber them 1,500 to 1. And that's just Martinez. With all the unions in Revachol, and with public opinion on our side, we can hold off 2 men. The more they send, the worse it's going to look for them. They made a huge mistake hiring those guys. No one likes foreign mercenaries. The leftists hate them, the fascists hate them, even the moralists think they're in bad taste. Harry, there is no strike, only war. Class war. Or, in business terms, a dawn raid. Or we're not going to give nothing. We're going to take Terminal B away from them. The roads, the gates, the containers, that big crane, even the damn coffee maker.
The word fuck rings like a gunshot from his mouth.
So that's why you haven't let Joyce in?
Yes. It's also why I let that midget Gaumont go. He's too nice. I can't put him through this. Plus, he knows how to get in here. That woman can't tell her tits from her arsehole. She has no chance. Tits from her arsehole.
Actually, No, it's not.
Because we're friends, Harry. Besides, it doesn't matter now. You can go tell her if you... It's already happening. No idea. Could have been his own mother for all I know. If you ever find the guy, give him a big fat kiss.
He really does. The guy, huh?
I don't. I told you it could have been his own mother. I'm pretty sure it wasn't anyone from the Union. Maybe it was the mob. Or maybe he killed himself because he was a closet social...
He really doesn't.
2,372. Plus yours truly.
And they're all well motivated. At least the ones you've seen.
Oh, you mean what sort of goods are going to be flowing through? How am I going to replace all the contacts we'll lose once the poo-poo... We've been running back channel negotiations with all the major clients. I think the company will be unpleasantly surprised to see how many of them stay loyal. With renewed zeal sparked by communal ownership, the men will be shipping those containers double time. You'll be surprised to see how fast things go without parasites latching on. We'll have our hands free to pursue bold...
That's
drug trafficking.
Drug trafficking? Don't be stupid, Mr. Kitsuragi. There are perfectly legal... All they do is produce components to keep the pharmaceutical industry running. That's people's health we're talking about. Old grannies, little babes, people with disabilities. The company thinks transporting these chemicals in bulk looks bad. Has bad optics. Maybe illegal in some countries. The Debarders Union, however, we're gonna transport the living daylights out of those materials, Harry. So your sick kid can get his Benefed, and your wacky uncle doesn't have to come off...
Benefed is a children's cold medicine, usually apricot-flavored.
And the kids on the street can get speed and pyrrolidone.
I'm an old-fashioned guy, Mr. Kitsuragi. I sometimes grab it, but if I were to supply ingredients for some sort of rainbow party, I would make sure the Union took a fantastic shit.
He's basically admitting to it.
Harry, if I was supplying raw materials to drug manufacturers...
Understood.
Yes, of course. And while you're doing that, please go ahead.
Nothing in his features.
Anyway, let's not focus on the sensationalism of the drug trade. This hypothetical drug trade is all anyone ever seems to be interested in. It would only be a small part of the harbor's turnover, just like the harbor is, but a small part of Martinez. Let's look at the big picture. Martinez as a whole. There are little girls out there with dreams of making music. Young mothers, I'm gonna unite them all into one economic body. We're gonna incorporate this place to Kingdom Come. Everyone's gonna be...
Let's keep focusing on the drug trade. He was almost admitting to it.
No, Harry. That's boring. All right, it's gone. The hypothetical raw materials, boys. Harry felt queasy about it. We're not doing it. Can we talk about my beautiful incorporated Martinez and its many-sided business ventures now? This bold new vision of incorporated socialism I'm offering? Yes, if you start thinking about it like that, the socialist municipal body sort of is like a corporation, isn't it? It uses corporate... We're way past specific union members now. This is... You can bother Leonard with that. He loves to run his mouth on...
There's something different about him now. He's more vibrant, more alive in his...
Harry, I've got to be honest with you. Your gun was found 2 days ago. Withholding this information weighed heavily on me. Your gun is with an old woman. I hear she's a character.
This must be the woman who bought the gun from Roy.
Yes, the same one. I see you've done your research. The pawn shop made the gun easy to track. Crazy
Union Boy's gonna help you fix it. He winks at you.
The neighbors of this old woman contacted my men because they trust me and the debardeurs even...
Waving the gun around doesn't sound good. None of this does.
As I said, she's a character. I didn't have time for details.
It sounds like a very
Unfortunately, I don't know anymore. You're gonna have to go in blind, Harry.
There it is again.
I, for one, find it refreshing. Finally, someone calls themselves a pig.
It actually sounds extremely bad.
I already have. Tonight, starting 10 o'clock, near the old fish market on the coast. The one on the boardwalk, a little past the fishing village. Be careful, Harry. I would never set you up for anything dangerous, but you did ask for this. Now, back to the fun stuff.
She will be there from 22.
More fun stuff. Seems like we already...
Great, Harry. This has been so great. I'm always happy to educate. Very nice, Harry.
The doors.
Raise the sand.
Hola, Wandering Man.
An old monument stands in the middle of the... Now that you've acquired some stimulants, it's time for a little pick-me-up. Time to detect. This is so unprofessional of you. Think you can ignore this? Your moral compass telling you to sniff it?
You've passed up your chance to start using speed for now, but don't worry.
Well, hello. What a solid cat. Wow. The gods of mass production have made this alcohol container. There's a satisfying pop as the cap comes off. And the hair on nothing. Some mental stuff. Nothing to be... A golden sun melts down your throat. Its rays filling your nostrils with sunshine. Your stomach melts from it.
In the bottom right corner of the screen...
From the void we came. And to the void we must return.
Our tenant, the policeman.
Yes, what is it? Ah, very good. Let's see what you have. Not the most advanced model, but at least everything appears. I believe that means we're ready to get started. I should warn you, once we begin setting up this antenna, we'll need to see the whole process through. There won't be any second chances, any do-overs. You understand? So if there's anything you'd like to get in order before we depart, yes. I wasn't sure what to do about that, but then I discovered an abandoned power source down by the edge of the bay. Oh, yes, I did notice that it was covered in police livery. Then you already know that the carriage... My intention is to run a power cable from the engine up to the... That's up to you. At a minimum, I would make sure you are physically and...
At the very least, you should make sure you...
Radio engineers typically carry overpriced solvent sprays to clean the antenna connections. But in a pin, finally, there's the question of stimulants. Some people prefer to keep legal amphetamines on hand to help with their work. I'm not one of them, but they do exist. It is possible that technical fields attract a certain kind of personality. I haven't given it much thought. That's fine. Return to me when you're ready to go. Yes, what is it? Very good?
Back across the water level. At least we are getting our...
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer, and if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now if you'll just connect that here...
It's done. I believe we are ready.
We're ready to try at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be 2 extra sets. I've configured the channels so you will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate the warship's public frequency. You will likely encounter some interference, but it's important to keep transmitting. Then it will be exactly like every other moment of every other day. Good. Beginning transmission.
A soft rustling between your ears, a winterscape with fast falling snow. Every light switch, every motor carriage, every doorbell, tea kettle, and radio in Martin.
Officer, are you in order? We're waiting for you to start.
You're all alone out there, wandering a blasted heath. The lieutenant looks up. He is nervous for your sake, of course, but also is looking at him now with both hands on his headphones. You see very briefly what then he turns to you. He gives you a half smile.
Try again, officer.
Nein, Liebling. Unseren Jungen nach Redeposten. Einem dieser... Marianne hat mir erzählt, dass Oscar nicht mehr...
He can't make out a word of this gibberish. The rustling of dry autumn leaves. Waves breaking. It's just like that woman in the electric. It's strangely comforting to think of these voices traveling through the air until you capture them.
Liebling, bitte. Not ghosts, officer. Crosstalk. Again?
It's gone now.
A slight frisson at the point where your neck meets your spine. Something about...
I didn't say anything, detective.
Someone has been maintaining it. The wiring has been repaired.
An uncomfortable silence.
It's been a long winter. Long and cold.
I promise you I didn't, even though it certainly sounds like me.
I can't say with certainty, but it sounds very much like entroponetic crosstalk. It happens sometimes when sending transmissions across long stretches of pale.
Ah, yes, of course. It must be it.
Outwardly, they both exude calm, but there's something disturbing about this thought. Pale, 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 pale. Seems to be missing from your records.
Natürlich halten wir die Psychologen für vollkommen normal.
There won't be any later. This is our chance. Now please keep going.
But someone has been maintaining it. The wiring has been repaired.
Dubois, please acknowledge.
Liebling, bitte.
Where's the Parte? Please identify.
The signals are getting increasingly mixed. Plucking Archer's signal from this will be like isolate.
It's not working. The crosstalk is simply too strong. I did not expect simply locating the signal to be so difficult. We must consider several variables. Local entroponetic conditions. The sophistication of our transceiver is perfectly capable, so there is no problem there. And we're also unlikely to change our local entroponetic conditions. So, the next step is to thoroughly... You need to climb up there and look at them for yourself.
Someone has been maintaining it.
No problem at all. You've already teleported. Something about this setup seems dimly familiar. But you'll be damned. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind.
You actually haven't. But you have proven that you are a relatively capable climber.
Then you might break your neck.
Your gloves give you a solid grip on the metal bar. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was frankly an embarrassment. The connection itself is nothing more than a little braid of exposed wood. The whole monument is covered in a thin but durable layer of oil and grime. It's obvious no one has cleaned it in years. It takes a few moments, but the alcohol gradually...
Is this really the time?
It's all right, Lieutenant. He's simply cleaning the connections.
Once the oils have been dissolved, you wipe off the connections with you.
It seems to have made some difference, but unfortunately... Short of changing the shape of the antenna, I'm not sure what else we can do from here. And the lorries are all jammed together, so that's unlikely to happen. Ideally, narrow the receiving mode so that we can isolate the warship signal and eliminate the crosstalk. And if you don't know what you're doing, of course you could just make it worse. You adjust the antenna manually. I'm afraid we're out of...
She's right. The responsibility is yours, and yours alone. There's no turning back now. You are face to face with Philip III. The Bronze King looks toward the west. Something, his imperious gaze leads you naturally to his outstretched hand. You can't help but feel that saber you picked up might just give this older king a little more panache and better reception. Come on. Kings and sabers are so played out. There's a better way. Why not arm the good king's valiant steed instead? There seems to be just enough room between its teeth there. To your surprise, the saber slides snugly between.
There is no way that is going to make any difference.
It's making a very slight difference. The signal is a bit clearer than it was.
This faithful steed cuts a dashing figure with the sky is grey and overcast. Somehow, through the scrim, you can just make out the shadow. A few of the idle lorry drivers and strikebreakers gesture at you with their cigarettes. More out of curiosity, she yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. You allow.
Yes, what is it? Very good.
Back across.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer. And if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now...
It's done.
We're ready to try, at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be 2 extra sets. You will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate then good.
A soft, every light.
Officer? Are you in? We don't have time for indecision.
You're all the loot. He is looking at then.
Try again.
You can't make out the rustle. It's strangely comforting.
Not again.
A slight frisson.
I didn't.
Someone has...
An uncut.
It's been a long wind.
I promise.
I can't say.
Ah, yeah.
Outwardly pale.
Not really. There won't.
But someone has...
The signals are...
It's not work. I didn't. We must our trans... And we're also... You need to...
Someone has been...
No something. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind.
You actually haven't.
Then you might break your neck.
Your gloves give you you don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was...
You're doing all right, detective. Just keep your focus on the task at hand.
The connection... The whole monument is covered in a thin... It takes a...
Is this...
It's all right.
Once the...
Short of changing the shape of the antenna, ideally, what do you mean?
She's right. The responsibility is yours, and yours alone. You're his imperial... You can't help but come on. Kings and sabers are... Why not arm the good kings? To your surprise...
There is no...
It's making a very slight...
This faithful... This guy... Through the scrim... She yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. You...
Yes, what is it? Very good.
Back.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer. And if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now if you'll...
It's done.
We're ready to try at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be two. You will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate. Then, good.
A soft rustling. Every light.
Officer?
You're all looking at then.
Try again.
You can't make out a, but it's strangely come.
Again?
A slight frisson.
I promise you I didn't.
I can't.
Ah, yeah.
Outwardly pale. The signals are.
It's not work. I did not. We must consider art and where. I did not. We must consider art trans and where. You need.
Someone has.
No problem. Something. Images of your body smashed against the.
I didn't. We must consider art trans and where. Oh, then I didn't. We must consider art trans and where also up.
Your gloves give you a solid grip. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was frankly an embarrassment. The whole monument. It takes.
Is this?
It's all up.
Once the.
Short of changing the shape of ideally, what do you mean?
She's right. You are his imperial. You can't help. Come on. Why not arm the good king? To your surprise.
There is no. It's making a.
This faithful. This guy is through the scrim. A few. She yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. Your grip is firm, yet controlled. The swelling in your headset guides your hands.
That's very good. Just 9.
The signal is clear. The storm has passed. This is another voice.
Try it now, officer.
Lieutenant Dubois, this is Elysium Parte.
Ah! Excellent! You are connected. Now be quick.
This is it. You're finally getting to... And by that, they mean the one. There is so much you wish you could ask. Your efforts have bought you some time, but you can't forget what...
Please be advised that you are speaking on a public frequency. What is your request? You are currently speaking with Elysium Parte, flagship of Insurgent forces in Rebashon. No, the captain of the Archer is deeply classified intelligence. We are the second signaler. Our name is not important. All you need to know is that we hold the position of second signaler.
You really don't have the faintest guess what her name could be. There's something in the way she refers to herself, always with the first person plural. A deliberate blurring of the boundary between herself and the institution she represents. Not to mention the airborne artillery platform she works on. Her every word is backed up by the most powerful ordnance available.
Because it's standard practice for signalers to use the pluralis officialis during the course of our duties. It's meant to serve as a reminder that we don't speak only. For instance, as second signaler, we represent Coalition Mercy Parte, which in turn represents Insurcom and the Coalition more generally, which in turn represents the Moralist International, which itself...
Meaning, she's the voice of all those living souls.
No, of course not. There are many nations outside the Moral Inter's umbrella, in Seoul, Samara, and elsewhere. Perhaps you could say that we represent the interests and hopes of a great many people. But you could say, just as easily, that we are the assistant to the secretary of a factotum. No more remarkable than the lowest cashier. It all depends on your perspective. The chief signaler, our superior. They are ultimately responsible for all communications aboard the Archer. But now, we've wandered quite far afield. What was your request? That's difficult to say. We have a very particular view from our observation platform. Perhaps the best way to describe it, it is to say we have a very... Oh, it looks quite lovely from here. From our portal, we see rolling hillsides covered with snow. A public... there are children building a snowman by a small pond. The homes and gardens are quite beautiful, very near, like those in certain areas of...
Le Jardin, Stella Marie, Saint-Baptiste. She's looking down on the suburbs of Revachol East.
Ah, that must be. We've only recently been detailed to the Archer, so...
She needs to see you down here. That's the only way.
Martinez. That is to the west, yes? Stand by a moment. Yes, we are looking at the river now. Interesting. The west of the city looks very different from the east. There's a large motorway dividing it nearly in half. This must... Very well. Now, we're looking at an area that's... Now we see the lake, and around that, a rather vibrant-looking city quarter. There are some large buildings from the turn of the century, we would guess.
A distended pause. A slight chill of embarrassment. She isn't sure what...
Oh, well, we see the many...
The old and irregular streets, like a grid drawn by a pool.
There are also a number of seabirds looping and twisting in the wind below us. No horses, though. And of course, we can see some people, but they... how to say it? We really couldn't say. That's one of the limits of this boundary. And then, there's all the tear line about. It's very unpleasant to look at. We're going to widen our viewfinder a bit. Yes, recycling is very important. The coalition always supports initiatives that from a roundabout. Aha! Yes, we see the monument. But there seems to be a man on top of it. To be completely honest, Lieutenant, we are not in a position. From here, all we can really see, in any event...
Liebling, bitte.
Time is running short, officer. I estimate you have time...
Come again? We're picking up more interference. A very important question, with a very... Beyond that, it may be said that...
Dolores Day. So beautiful.
Oh, incomparably so.
Not true.
She was the greatest innocent, the single most consequential being to have ever lived. Immeasurable. It includes interstellar travel, 3 scientific revolutions, humanism, internationalism, the welfare state, and the role of the Moralist International is twofold: to buy humanity sufficient time to perfect itself, and to patiently guide it along the road while protecting it. It's an elegant idea, one of the cornerstones of the modern era. In short, it holds that durable, lasting peace is possible when the major powers are capable, because no rational state is willing to accept the risk of such a calamity befalling its own people. All powers are incentivized to de-escalate conflicts. For the most part, it has. The world is certainly not free of violent conflict, but in the modern era, we have made great strides to reduce it. It was established by many of the same founding party members who elected Dolores Day, and who, after her assassination, dedicated their lives to the continuation of... There are many. The communists say they are the next dialectical step in an inexorable spiral of progress. They claim to have resolved. The fascists say they are both the ancestors of and the successors to the Loyalism. In other words, they believe that Dolores Day's reign simply represents... And then, there are our prodigal cousins, the Vazan Social Democrats, who hold our same values and have even adopted many of our same rights and iconography, though they persist in rejecting the umbrella of moralism.
For some reason, it's the Social Democrats she sounds most exasperated with.
We don't resent them. It's more that we are disappointed.
She speaks of them like a family member she's abandoned hope.
But of course, they also remain dependable partners in a number of centrist governing coalitions. The RCM exists under the umbrella of the coalition. At the same time, the RCM is not exactly of the coalition. It's our understanding that the RCM's organizational structure predates the coalition. We believe it may...
There is some truth to that.
But in a practical sense, it's the responsibility of the ethics divisions to ensure that both organizations are working toward the same ends. One now committed to upholding moralist values. Strange, isn't it? History is a river coursing ever downward. Occasionally, let us answer your question with a question. Have you ever seen evening fall over the old town of Vesperashit? If you have, then you would remember. It is one of the heart of the city. The old town is a district composed of weather marble, comprising thousands of columns and arcades arranged around a series of... But as the sun sets, the shadows cast by those columns and arcades weave together to form an intricate umbrella.
The name at Vesperashit means evening comes.
By thousands of people over many centuries, in keeping with a precise plan each believed in, but never expected to see the final completion of. Not only that, but you are also part of the centuries-long plan. When you cross one of the open plazas, your own shadows is effortlessly woven into the gray. Yes, it is. We grew up there. We have seen the lattice with our own eyes. She was. There are even those who say that at Vesperashit, someone... That's why the old town is sometimes called... Of course, such a city does not spring from nowhere, nor does it endure without effort. Its construction was the work of many generations, and its preservation is an equally monumental responsibility. About 3,000 years. It does, doesn't it? And yet...
Officer, I've held the signal open as long as I can.
Is everything all right? Acknowledged. If the liaison accepts your request, you will be invited to address the committee at their next quarterly public hearing. We believe the next hearing is scheduled...
She's got to be jerking your chain, right? You can't wait that long.
Not a problem. If this is a time-sensitive matter, you may file an emergency. They typically respond within a few weeks. We're afraid that is quite impossible, Lieutenant Dubois. We cannot transfer you to the committee because we are not entrusted with that responsibility.
Then, why are you wasting time with her? You should demand to speak with who's really in charge.
We're here, Lieutenant. Though we have to say, this is all...
This line of argument is quite pointless. You should abandon it.
This isn't about you. Not really. It may have been at a certain point. Now, take a deep breath. Look upward. You don't have to bear the burden.
What? How do you know this? Lieutenant Dubois, this is a very serious claim. Please describe the situation as succinctly as possible.
There's papers rustling in the background. She's there. You've wedged your foot in the door. Now, if you can show the Coalition how much they're needed, they'll have no choice but to intervene.
Please continue. We're listening. Was there anything else the committee should know?
Detective, before you answer that, I urge you to weigh your words.
You're not only speaking for yourself. He means to tell you, you're speaking for all of the RCM. The lieutenant is afraid you're going to say something too outre.
We are listening. What did you learn about the victim?
Oh dear, you seem to be losing. No, this is right. Who...
Come again? Something miraculous, you say? We're afraid we aren't quite following. Who told you all this, exactly? We see. Lieutenant, we must be perfectly honest with you. We cannot recommend that you address the committee. Because what you're saying makes no sense. From the sound of your voice, it appears that you have been under the influence of alcohol. We will pass along as... That's correct. But we must say that this has been interesting. Now, the first signaler has informed us that we must update the receiving frequency. 2, 1...
And the lieutenant gives...
I think it's best for you to climb off the statue now, Detective. Your real work is done here.
The sun-warmed bronze. You look around. The strikebreakers are... There's really no point. You're beginning to feel like the little child who refuses to come down off.
Parte. Parcot.
O Pasaro de Agent. It's what the Zemoyaki, the Gradian community in Revachol, call a person who never breaks under interrogation. It's an organized crime term.
Excuse me?
She's attempting to remain calm.
What do you mean? Alright. My father was a Zemyaki. He died years ago. He was a bad one. He bought the family a huge house, so we got to live, at least temporarily, in a giant castle in Jamrock. And then he died. What do you think? The competition came and took everything away. So after his death, we had nothing left. And we were in danger. My mother had to change her name. It was a stupid idea. And
Aren't there any local authorities who might look...
I took that into account, of course. Coordinated the operation with the débardeurs. Not in person, but I let them know. You can't do anything without the fat ones getting wind. It's a good thing you ended that mess, though. I felt I was turning Dadwise into a corrupt...
Hear that? Set justice on. Come on. This is all fine. But you don't have anything on Everard now. That's not how these things work.
No, I don't think it would lead anywhere with Everard.
Yeah. Have you seen Everard?
Oh, hey, man. It's goodbye.
Yes, what is it? Yes, what is it?
An old door. worn by elements, guards the depot. The wind has blown a...
Mr. Dubois. Funny.
Funny. She was trying to set up a narcotics.
Oh, that a cell. Yes, I do seem to remember sending a pretty young thing down there to liven up the place. Get some melodic music in there. Amphetamine lab? That sounds very immoral, but what do I know about kids these days? The music they listen to, the drugs they do while they listen to that music?
It sounds to me like you are trying to start an amphetamine lab in the district. And you're using some delinquents you found God knows where to sit.
Found God knows where? That Acel is the daughter of Miko the Kebab. A man who once killed a guy with a kebab. I think a daughter of a man who killed a man with a kebab can handle running a little nightclub, don't you? Maybe it was Bogovin. Or Jakub. I think it might have been Conrad. A nightclub? Harry, I'm an old-fashioned guy. After work, I like to listen to some rock and roll music. But here I am, talking about myself.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? Oh? A takeover? If they're taking it...
Like a cancer of the blood.
Then we're talking about a war. Evrart needs to let me into the harbor at once. We need to talk about this. They most certainly are not. Crenel has 1,000 men on their payroll. The next batch will be
I've seen the Union's forces. They are better organized than these mercenaries. They also have the support of the people of Reva. It will take more than Crenel to wipe them out. Wild Pines will need to send more and better equipped men. Make no mistake, ma'am. I am sure you have the money. The question is, how many years and how many lives are you willing to sacrifice?
What do you suggest I do? Everything affects the decision-making process, Detective.
Officer?
For once, I don't seem to know what the right thing to do is.
Do you think it's within my authority to give it to them? Do you think I can control the board and the shell-shocked mercenary? What will I do?
Her arms fall to her side.
Did I ever tell you how they discovered this Isola? During our talks? It may be the only break we've ever caught as a species. The last one for 400 years. The nations who colonized this Isola called theirs Muindi, the world. It was all they knew, all they thought would be. The Pale was thought to be impregnable, perpetual. Irene la Navigateur, the Queen of Suren, sent 8 expeditions, one after the other.
Each of those expeditions would have been led by an admiral. Sounds like a purge. Like she was purging her political rivals.
There was no precedent for such an undertaking. People thought she was punishing the admirals, or until after years of trial and error, and the development of a strict psychological regime
called Volta Doma.
The 8th expedition returned sane and intact. They told of a new continent of matter. They told the Queen and her counselor, Dolores Day, that the Pale had begun to condense, day after slowly raining down.
There are rain circles on water all around. Humidity crawls up. So does the lieutenant. His mouth is slightly... The droplets feel warm, like spring rain.
The phenomenon has never again been encountered. For a time, the crew thought they were experiencing a hallucination. The mass hand proclaimed, "Lanciolenda, Lanciolenda," the signal to wake up. But they could not. They were sane and conscious, as islands began to appear on the horizon. There are 78,000 uninhabited islands in the insular...
You've thought it a million times.
A total shift in human comprehension of reality. On the second day, a great skua was shot down above the flagship Lysergique. 4 years later, the Queen's Counselor was proclaimed Her Innocence Dolores Day, the elected world spirit. The age of humanism, internationalism, and parliamentary rule followed. We were high. On Caillou, the Pebble, the largest of the fertile, uninhabited islands of the northeast Insulindian archipelago. The first living, autonomous organism. Proof of reality. It's the symbol of Insulinde, Detective. The coat of arms of the suzerain and the... In your defense, it is a nasty creature who plucks food from the throats of lesser birds. Yet much like Revachol, it is also magnificent. The nations of Mundi proceeded to discover 5 more Isolae. But these others weren't uninhabited. We had to kill people there. wipe out indigenous populations, gunboat economies. There was no one but the Skua, the Liliat Sea, and the Blood Beach, and the River Esperance. It was the new world. The Mondials used it to amass the greatest concentration of wealth, revolution, poverty, and the mercurial rise of capitalism. It is. Soon it will be.
The gangs will run wild, jacking motor carriages, ferrying amphetamines through Coal City. Spring is tough in Revachol.
I will take your advice, Lieutenant Chiefrater. I will surrender Terminal B to the Union.
She puts her hand in the rain. She's silent for a second.
We will see.
Ma'am, this may well unravel property law this side of the river. If that occurs, we may never see the end of this kind of confrontation. The next time there will be 2 strikes, then 4, then 100.
What happens will happen. The age of capital has only begun. I will talk to my employers in person. We will amputate and cauterize Martinez, if you handle the situation on the ground. Yes, Mr. Clare has a 2-month head start. I can't let it grow any bigger. And I've exhausted all my options from here.
There are no employers. She's a member of the board. Probably a partner.
You are the citizens' militia. There are no superiors.
That's right, Detective. And next time, you should confer with them before you go setting it.
Despite his words, he's not really sure whether events are already in motion. Whether your actions accelerated or momentarily retarded their progress. Even the lieutenant cannot really say.
I have not deceived you. I told you exactly who I was. Rejoice Layton. Keep the peace, and I will keep my...
How far along is Cronell's investigation?
The confrontation is imminent. They have followed in your footsteps. As your investigation reaches a climax, so does theirs. They are your shadow. Arm yourselves. Protect their targets. Violence may be unavoidable, but we can limit the casualty soon. I do not know precisely. They have cut off all communication. One last thing, Lieutenant Dubois. I've given the matter much thought and come to this conclusion. You're not an amnesiac. You're insane. I know, because I, too, am insane. I just hide my illness better. No, Detective. No one's as insane as you.
Don't worry, Madame. I am very sane.
I'm overexposed, baby. My travels take me through the Pale dozens of times a year. I've got the longing. And I've got it bad.
She would die to return to it. The Pale. The past.
The same strict psychological regimen the 8th Admiral developed when he crossed the Pale and discovered this Isola. The Volta do Mar. It's used by inter-Islary travelers and other...
You could use a little of it yourself.
Watch out for yourselves. They will strike soon.
The lieutenant watches her boat grow smaller, with worry in his eyes. He does not know. You wonder what Everard has to say about it.
Yes?
Either sea's gonna calm down.
So, did it look like a germ? Did it look like a piece of bacteria?
You get a sinking... Oh my god, you've been played.
Don't worry, Harry. He does. At least I think he does.
You wanted us to relay all this information to...
That this is a takeover? That I want a war? God, I hope you also told her about the drug trade. They absolutely hate getting their hands dirty with that. You can kill 1 million people, but if you do something the police doesn't like, well, then you're out of the yacht club. Goodbye, you inhuman fuck. No, no, Harry. What we have is real. We're working men. This here is real. Harry. I can't see into the future. We are all playing by ear on this planet. I had no idea she'd react so strongly. I did. I knew the negotiations would go better with police officers telling her horror stories from inside the harbour. It's scarier this way. Turns out it was a magnificent strategy. I never thought it'd so fundamentally fuck her up. Harry, I bugged her cabin. I bugged her whole boat. I had cameras surveying her boat. Hell, I even wanted to bug that thermal cap. But my boys advised against it. Not me personally. I had guys recording and processing this information for me. Hell no! They'd fuck it up. They can't do anything right. I mean my real boys. My special task force boys.
Where are these boys?
They sure as hell aren't hanging out in the open with beers in their hands for the cops to question. They're pros, Mr. Kitsuragi. Harry, you made a conscious decision to relay that information to her. You could have kept it for yourself. Against you? Oh, Harry, I'd like to think...
It was interesting. No arguing against that.
Of course she did. Rich people have the best stories. About all the interesting things they've done and seen. All the beautiful places they've been to.
It saddens him that she can. Sours it, but only a tiny bit.
She's not insane. What did she tell you? Heh! She's a sentimental alcoholic. They all are, Harry. Never take a drop and you'll be 8 laps ahead of the upper-class winos, just like old Mr. Clare here. Try it. You'll be a real super detective. I can see that, Harry. Alcohol has left its marks, but you're doing better than when I first saw you. Rich man is shitting himself. The working... What was always going to happen? We take the harbour and she fucks off to Ozon, uncorks a bottle of wine, calls her partners, and says they need to distance themselves from this nasty... Only difference is the Union doesn't have to lose 2,000 men to machine gun fire. Harry, when I need to tell people, I might as well do it myself. That's why I like initiative.
And safer too. You never know who you...
You knew something. Something big. And you wanted to see what happens when you tell someone. So you told her. Anyone who's ever been close to power will tell you. Inside information is the sweetest thing in the world. It's better than money. It's better than pussy. Money only makes you special for some salesmen. Pussy only makes you special for yourself. Information makes you special for all mankind. It's the ticket to history. Right on, Harry. What you did was participate in history. When history calls, you have to pick up. You had no choice. None of us ever...
You know what, detective? I am going to leave this out of my report.
Just look at the 3 of us. The 3 careless boyaderos. Good times, good times. Now, there's a whole lot of work to do. For me and for you. I suppose there was a reason you came here, so let's get to it. What...
Yes? What do you want to know? Good.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? Oh? A takeover? If they're taking it...
Like a cancer.
Then we're talking about a war. Evrart needs to let me into the harbor at once. No. It's naive of me. He sent you. And if he does not avert his course, it will be a war negotiation, detectives. They most...
I've seen the unit. It will take I am sure.
What do you suggest I do? Of course. Your job is to clean up after them. And it looks like there will be a lot of cleaning to be done in the near... What will I do?
Her arm...
Did I ever tell you how they discovered this Isola? Typically arrogant of me. Absent-minded as well.
We do, for
his arm.
It may be the nation, the Pale.
Each of those expeditions...
There was... It slowly...
There are... So does the lieutenant. The droplets feel warm. Like...
The phenomenon, but they could not...
You've thought it a million times.
On the 4 years later, the Queen's Counselor. I will surrender Terminal B to the Union.
She puts her hand in the rain. She's so...
We will see.
Ma'am, this...
You're back. Good. What? Oh, a takeover? Then we're talking about a... They...
I've seen it. It will take... I am sure.
What do you suggest I do? Like the previous leaders of the Union were assassinated. I suspect by Evrart and Edgar themselves. I admit there's some poetry in the idea, and like poetry, it's also useless. There would still be Edgar. They factored it in. The Union is... What will I do?
Her arm...
Did I ever tell you how they discovered this East? The Pale will... The 8th expedition returns.
So does the droplets.
The phenomenon, but they could not...
You've thought it a million times.
On the 2nd day, 4 years later, the Queen's Counselor was I will surrender Terminal B to the Union.
She puts her hand...
We will see.
Ma'am.
All around you, winter's grip on the city is loosening. Your shirt sticks to your... You're not dressed for this weather. You should get an overcoat. Sheets of rain over the water. A flight of stairs lead the ruins of a half-sunken sea fort crumble on an inlet. The skyscrapers of La Delta, the financial... Will you ever go there? No, you are just one of the 100 urban coastline, rain dripping off Etonite-covered roofs. Coal City, end of all lines. Your hair is an oily mess flecked with ash from neighboring coal. There's a fleet on the corner. A plastic coat is folded into a... The great gates of the industrial harbor are locked. Behind the gates, heaps of supply crates, red and blue metal shipping containers. La Ducienne, King Dries passenger harbor. Couronne, the lower middle class. Distributary, a silvery curtain of rain. You have never been. Capeside apartments. Tower hallways collapse from the morning news. A yard, rain, a traffic jam. Rain thrumming on the roofs of the road ascends. Revachol is the capital of the world. Jamrock is the capital of Revachol. It's home.
I have a brother in the cut. Where?
To be in Martinez, where no one goes, at the runoff point of a long-forgotten canal. Standing in the rain. In the rain, your vision blurs. Coalition-era statics hang like apparitions under.
This rain will not let up anytime soon. I'd recommend you put on your coat.
Behind the dockworkers, a ceiling height window. The hawthorn branches scrape the glass. There's a little slide panel up there to let some air in. There's a yellow ribbon tied to one of the branches. Light yellow, faded with time. Someone hid the key in the bush and attached it. It's close enough to the latch up there.
Huh?
And I need the fatty to get his feet at.
God damn it, Dennis. You know I can't help it.
Sorry, fucko. These guys won't help you. Look,
I'm gonna enjoy.
With a loud thud, the old man stands up, pushes the window open. The key is brass. Workshop spare.
Come on, man. We were just...
I'm tired of listening to your shit. Don't thank me. I don't give two shits about your key.
Didn't even know it was there. Boys.
Never even seen it. Someone must have hidden it there before this room became our place.
It's for the blue door in the kitchen. There was a note there that you missed. It said the workshop key is behind the window. It's this key.
You're a little will.
It's said without aggression. You see, the key fit. Master investigator, you just can't keep yourself away from locked and hidden places. Nothing. You're right. Get in there. Deep. Invade every personal space. Yes, that's what it is. A quick peek here. The man ponders his cooking.
Hey, was there some got the 20 real? Then why are you...
Hi, Ace Detective.
The maps look old and faded. Your eye catches a map. This large map, Ozon, disintegrate in the northeast, radiating outwards from you. You can. Lost. The ocean break connections. You have little. Perhaps they are the north to the east. Hudon. It's so small. No. This is somewhere to.
I'm sorry, they're quite valuable. Though they might not. Yes. Are you interested?
This bookstore is not strictly. Shelves full of. Shelves filled. Droplets of rain fall on the white on blue police livery. Do something important? Something murder-related? Even at a standstill, the unibody Caprice Kanema looks sleek and dive. Someone has waxed it recently.
You want to take a closer look? $130.
I reckon that's a 7-liter V12 there.
7.2. Supercharged.
Saying these words brings him immense joy.
Yes, an extraordinary machine.
Helium headlights would improve the range and quality of the visual field.
Actually, I have a pair at home. Just haven't gotten around to fitting them yet. I need to lay some wiring for the ballast first. Maybe. Yes, definitely maybe.
And means no.
Danko.
There's the worn and beaten.
We can sit on benches after we've solved them.
You can revisit the bench if you ever need to pass the time.
What is it? Yes, what is it? Very good.
Back across.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer. And if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now...
It's done.
We're ready to try, at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be 2 extra sets. I've configured the channels so that only your microphone is set to broadcast, officer. We'll all be able to listen, but anyone we reach will only hear your voice. You will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate the warship's public frequency. You will likely then... Good.
A soft...
Officer? Are you in order?
You're all the he is looking at then.
Try again,
You can't make out a word. The rustle, it's strangely comforting.
Not again.
A slight frisk and
yes.
Out to pair.
Natürlich halten ihn die Psychologen für...
The signals.
It's not work. I didn't. We must our and we're also
But you.
Someone has
no problem. Something. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind. This is dangerous.
You actually haven't.
Then you might break your neck. That's true, but I can't.
Your gloves give you a solid grip on the metal bar. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was the connection. Truth be told.
Well, I was sort of changing the shape ideally. What do you...
She's right. You are fate. His impact. Come on. Kings and sabers are so. Why not arm the good king? The king.
Everything in order, detective?
This faithful. This guy through the scrim. A few of. She yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. Your grip is firm, yet controlled. The swelling in your headset guides your hands as much as your hands guide the bronze horse head. It's almost like you're here.
That's very good.
The signal.
Right now.
Lieutenant,
This is, and by that there is so.
please be advised that you are currently speaking with Coalition Worthy Parte, flagship of Insurgent forces in our name.
There's something. Not to mention the airborne artillery platform she works on.
Because it's, for instance,
Meaning, she's the voice of all those living.
it's an important responsibility. But now, your request? That's difficult to say. We have a very perhaps. There are children running home to get out of the rain. The homes and gardens. We cannot say for certain. Martinez. Stand by. Yes. Interesting. Very well. Now we see.
A distended pause. A slight chill of
Oh well.
the old.
There are also a number of seabirds looping and twisting. We really could. And then there's all the tail line of. Yes. Precise around. That's you. We have to say, that's extremely irregular, Lieutenant. What are you doing on top of the public monument? It must be unfortunate. In any event, it is...
Liebling, bitte.
Time is running short of the...
Come again? We're picking up more interference. A very beyond that, immeasurable. The role of the Moralist International is twofold. It's an because no rational state, for the most part, it has. It was established by men. There are many. The fascists, and then...
For some reason, it's the social.
We don't...
She speaks.
But of course, they also remain dependable partners in a number of centrist governing coalitions. At the same time, the RCM is not exactly off the coalition. It's our
There is some.
But in a practical sense, it's the responsibility of the ethics divisions to ensure that both organizations... History is a river coursing... Let us answer your question with a question. Have you ever... If you have the heart of this... What does the...
The name at Vesperasket. Me.
By... Not only that. Yes, it is. She was. That's what... Of course, such a city does not spring from nowhere. No, about 3,000...
She really had that.
It does, doesn't it?
Officer, I've held the signal open as long as I can. Whatever you came here...
Is everything all right? We can assure you. It is coming as soon as possible. Oh, most likely. Though, of course, you must understand, the moral intern is responsible for ensuring the continuance and flourish. Fortunately, we have of course, there is no... It's not really our area of expertise, but we can try to explain. Picture a smooth hill made from fresh dirt. Now, if you stand atop this hill and put a glass of water over it, what will happen? You're thinking about... The point is that we know only that the water will run down, but not what course it will take. If we place a rock in the water's path, will it divert to the left or to the right? That is the essence of the idea. You might also imagine these spreads as a kind of tree. Not exactly. No one can know the future. But with contingency spreads, it is... But we shouldn't overstate. That's impossible to say. It may be that Ravachol... You must understand, when we speak of contingency spreads, we are talking about the most fantastic...
It makes your...
It may be the case that, under certain scenarios, Ravachol is vitally important, as it was during the collision landings in '08. It may also be the case, in many other equally plausible scenarios, that Ravachol is simply another once great city, like countless others throughout history. Perhaps, perhaps not. Could the Pericarnassians have foreseen the role Ravachol would play in events to come? For this reason, responsibility for developing contingency spreads is only assigned to highly Of course, while the content of individual contingency spreads is deeply classified, many degrees beyond our access, everything we have heard from the Provisional Commission indicates that the transition is proceeding according to the appropriate timetable. Well, not yet. Right now, it's more like a simple seed, buried out of sight. The first phase of them... Soon, the people at Ravachol will vote for slates of candidates who will make up the Transitional Advisory Council that will oversee the second phase of democratization. The Council is modeled after similar bodies developed in a number of transitional democracies.
Local conditions, in this case.
Once elected, Council members will even have the opportunity to join one of several officially sanctioned political wings, depending on their ideological beliefs and policy preferences. A very important question. The wings are carefully selected to represent a wide spectrum of political thought. Typically, there's a liberal technocratic wing, a social democratic wing, and even a conservative populist wing. You wouldn't believe some of the ideas they express, but a vibrant and free political culture requires that all perspectives be given voice. Even those... In most cases, the Provisional Council selects them from a cross-section of the local population. Of course, such a situation is not ideal. We would all prefer for Vashalians to nominate the representatives. Our best theoreticians believe that 3 to 5 phases are appropriate for states that lack strong democratic traditions, which would certainly... But we must stress that real democracy is an ongoing process and not simply an outcome. It must be cultivated. Exactamente.
It's been a long winter.
Be advised, officer. The signal is...
Lieutenant Dubois, are you there? Lieutenant Dubois, please repeat.
Ich kann doch auch nichts...
Nothing important. Bad connection.
And the line the lieutenant gives a long sigh.
I think it's best for you to climb off the statue now, Detective.
There's a damp. You look around. The strikebreakers are still shouting their slogans and waving their... There's really no point. You're beginning to feel like the little
Good. Now give me a hand with these amplifiers. Leave the...
What's one more trip across the waterlock?
Well, this was an interesting collaboration. Really? I do not think we were all that... In any event, just leave that equipment here. I'll put it away later. If you'd like, you can... Now you'll excuse me? Yes, what is it? Very good.
Back across.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer. And if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And
it's done.
We're ready to try at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be... You will need to transmit your connection. Good.
Up.
We don't have time for...
Look there.
Try again, officer.
Marianne hat mir erzählt, dass...
You can't make out a word. The rustle, it's strangely...
Not Again?
A slight
I can't say with...
Ah, yes.
outwardly pale.
Natürlich.
The signals are...
It's not work. I didn't... We must Artron, and we're also
Someone has been...
No something. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind.
You actually haven't.
Your gloves give you a solid grip. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance. The connect truth be told.
Well, I should have ideally narrow the receiving. What do you...
She's right. You are his impact. Come on. Kings and Sable, why not arm the good? To your surprise,
There is no... It's making a very slight difference. The signal is a bit clearer than it was.
this faithful, this guy, through the scrim, she yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. Your grip is the signal.
Try it now, officer.
Lieutenant Dubois.
This is, and by that, there is so...
Please be advised that you're speaking on a acknowledge. If the liaison accepts your request, you will be invited to address the... Not a problem. They typically respond, we're afraid. We cannot trust...
Then, why are you wasting time with...
We're here, Lieutenant.
This line of argument is quite pointless. You should abandon it.
This isn't about now.
What? How do you know this, Lieutenant Dubois?
There's paper there. You have the facts. Just lay them out beneath the cold light of reason.
Please continue. We're listening. Good God. Is there anything else the committee should know?
Detective, before you answer that, I urge you to weigh your words.
You're not only speaking for yourself. The lieutenant is afraid you're going to say something too outre.
Acknowledge.
A long wind.
I'm not sure how much longer I can keep the signal clear, officer.
Lieutenant Dubois.
No. You know this tone of voice. You've heard it before. She's a...
We're sorry, Lieutenant Dubois. The committee has... Specifically, they said that disputes of... I cannot say we agree. Speaking for a moment in strictly personal terms. You have convinced us that the situation in Martinez isn't...
Something has cracked in her foundation. Her faith...
They added that they expect the RCM to fulfill its responsibilities to a high degree of satisfaction. We're afraid so.
Her wishes are sincere.
Now, the first signaler has informed us that we must update the receiving frequency. This connection will be cleared in 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the lieutenant gives...
I think it's best for you to climb off this.
You look around. There's...
Good. Now give me a hand with these amplifiers. Leave the cables.
What's one more trip across the waterlock?
Well, this was an interesting collaboration. Perhaps in any event now...